Alrighty, right. It's Friday. And guess what? What day is it today?
You just told us it was Friday.
But which day? Like, it's
Friday.
TechTalk. TechTalk.
Oh, right, okay, right.
You've forgotten, I know, we've only done this a couple of times, so.
I thought you were just calling for a chat.
Yeah, well, it is TechTalk, boys. TechTalk Fridays. So.
I've got a good topic, guys. I've got a good topic lined up, Dan. We're talking about the importance of equalising the surface. Superficial defects, crow's feet, colour variations. There's a lot of different things that it can lead to. So equalising the surface is a very, very important thing that's going to give you the best outcome possible.
It's a really great topic, Mike. When you just mentioned crow's feet, what are crow's feet? Also known potentially as spider webbing. You know, you see like the densifier doing like some funky things, and it's got a few different discolorations, and it looks like it's sort of cracking. Joshy, do you wanna give us a little bit more broader input on what is crow's feet? What is spider webbing? Why is it doing that?
Look, I'm going to throw this in with a whole bunch of other ones, Daniel, because they all kind of come together. We get a lot of questions and a lot of photos sent through to us saying, what's this from? Is this going to show up in the end finish? And of course, the first thing I'm going to say is, how would I know? I am not the guy on site who's done the sample, and strangely enough, neither of you. And you're asking me if this is going to come out, right? But outside of that, most of the things that we get, I see photos of machine marks during the honing process where contractors are asking, is this going to be a uniform color when I get finished, or am I going to see all the little bits of densifier overspray? Am I going to see this crow's feet? Am I going to have any success trying to blend this floor from one section into another? All those types of questions.
Train tracks, tram tracks, all that.
Emu tracks, kangaroo tracks, all sorts of tracks. You know, is this stuff going to be there when it's finished? And it all kind of feeds into the same thing, guys. It really comes down to another question that we get is, how much product am I going to use on this floor? I mean, Milan, you've been a contractor for years prior to jumping on board with Works Plus. How did you calculate this? You didn't calculate it per job, I'm sure.
Definitely not, because as we already know, the materials we deal with site to site are always different, and particularly with those existing older slabs, which were never intended for polishing. There is no real answer to that question, how much do I apply, or how many litres will I go through, because the floor will tell you how much you need to put down, because we often talk about putting the densifier up until rejection. So what does that even look like, you know? So what we're aiming for is that nice bronzy color throughout the entire floor. I get a lot of contractors who are maybe at the 400 stage and they're going, my floor's looking a bit discolored, you know, some lighter spots, some darker spots. I don't think it's right. What's going on here? So a lot of the time I say, look, it's probably not enough densifier. You haven't applied densifier to that floor until saturation. So what happens is they say, I've sprayed it down, but spraying down isn't a real calculation. You have to spray it down until the concrete will take no more, until you have that nice goldeny color throughout, you know, after grouting, after the 50s, after the 100s, before proceeding into the next step. So to answer your question, there is no answer how much per project. It's until that floor says no more. If we're working on a relatively dense slab, we're looking about, you know, a tub per 100 square meters.
Yeah, roughly. I mean, it's almost the same as asking you how much fuel is it going to take for me to drive to Manly, Sydney, right? You don't know. You know, if my wife drove up there, her car clocks down the highway at about 7.5 litres per 100. Mine's nearly 20 litres more than that. So, you know, it's like asking the question without even knowing what materials that you're dealing with or the processes that are going to be involved. You know, they're all different. And so based on averages, like you say, it's about 20 litres per 100, right? Square metres. But it goes back even further. Some of these issues go back even further than densifier, because if you want to get those types of averages out of your densifier, you've got to make sure that that floor is fully plugged up as well with grout. Because if you've got a floor that's quite porous, it's going to suck more in. So part of the reason why grout is actually such an economical process in mechanical polished concrete is because it plugs in all the pores. It has a dual purpose here. Obviously, it's going to make the surface much more aesthetically pleasing, but it also means that you're going to use less densifier because all of those pores are much more dense now. So this will help control some of the costs. And because you might say to a client, well, I could save you some money if you don't want me to grout the floor. Well, you might end up pouring a whole lot more densifier and then costing yourself a lot more money. So it's everything in the surface. And if we talk about trying to get the color correct and uniform throughout the surface, we need to have all that grout in there. If you're doing an exposed aggregate floor, lots and lots and lots of grout, tighten up the surface as much as you can, and then we're going to put down the densifier. And again, to the point of rejection, and Daniel, I know that you love talking about this subject, the point of rejection, right?
That's it. Now,
if I want point of rejection, I reckon the best thing for me to do is just to kick over that tub after grouting, kick over the tub of densifier and just broom it out. Actually, no, I think of that scene in Zoolander at the petrol station. That's how I like to see densifier go down.
Just thrown around like a mad thing. Let me play devil's advocate, and let's go back to what Milan said, that I'm at 400s and I've got these issues. What's the steps I'm taking to go back and correct this? Rule
of thumb is wherever it went wrong, that's where you need to go back to. So if you haven't got enough densifier in there since after, post grouting, guess where you're going back to? If you haven't got enough densifier there after you've done your 200s, guess where you're going back to? There's no shortcuts in this game. And some people go, oh, well, I've got a floor up to 400. And remember, now we've built up a floor that's really, really resistant to abrasion. That's the reason why it lasts so long. That's why it's so good. You can't just jump back to a 200, can you?
No, I mean, we talk about having the right surface for the tool to work with. So all of a sudden you've created the wrong surface for the tool to start working with, is the way I would say it.
So the difficulty is if we've created a problem, say for instance we didn't do a reapplication of densifier between 100 and 200, and now we've got all these marks and we're up to 400. Going back to 100, the 100 isn't even going to bite. So you've got a bit of an issue there. If we only want to go back to 100, we're probably going to have to somehow bring some type of texture to the equation as well. And fortunately, we love texture on concrete, and we have a way of creating texture, also known as, to quote Kurt from Rock Up Group, concrete acne. And what's the best way to get that, Daniel?
Driplets and droplets.
I was waiting for it. So to answer your question, Mike, if you got to 400 and you saw these lines in the floor, I couldn't imagine going back to anything less than 100s. However, to be honest with you though, on modern day concrete, nice dense stuff, I would probably be going back to something more like a 100 grit ceramic and just giving that surface a reprofile, give it some texture, give it a nice heavy densifier, and get back into it.
If you're going to go backwards, you don't want to have to go backwards again and again. You want to
and you don't want to
go back and do it once again and learn your lesson and give yourself a smack on the hand and get back and bring it back up again.
Yeah.
So behind here, Milan obviously ran this seminar not long ago and created this amazing floor with the New South guys. And the question was, hey, can I just attack that with a hand grinder, that little area that has got these deep scratches left behind? There's just that little area I can just like, splat. It's easier than getting the big machine out, right?
Look, I agree. That's fine. And you can do that if you have a very, very low, price per square meter to your client. Because if you're the lowest cost guy in the industry, then they surely can't expect much anyway for their money.
If I'm the lowest cost guy in the industry, I can't afford to be there longer.
That's right. That's how I gave you this super low price.
when you see a problem, address it then and there. Don't keep going into your process and hope that things are going to get sorted away. Your best opportunity to fix it is when you see it straight away. Exactly. And not when you packed up tools, walked away, and all of a sudden you got a call back. Ouch.
But I'm standing over in the corner with my remote looking at my machine to drive around over there. Are you telling me, even though I've done my sample, I still have to watch what's coming out the back of the machine? Right, okay.
Don't bring variables in, because our 30 is not someone else's 30. Like our 120 is not someone else's 120. The thing is, having that particular process when you're especially running a team, replicating.
Yeah. So the easiest thing if you're replicating is bring everything to the same point at each process. So when it comes to getting the right color right throughout the floor, the chemicals are obviously going to have a big influence, and so are the tools. So you need to systemize your process, be comfortable with what you're working with, a good understanding of all the materials and the processes. And if you have that, getting that consistent color throughout, I think is going to be a snap.
Yeah. I mean, even like when you go on sites, for example, because we have so many different pump bottles and e-sprays and things, and then we wash them out and there's a bit of too much water. Also knowing what the color needs to look like when you spray your grout out, for example, not that it's half water, half grout. You got to know that you're getting the right consistency on that floor. And that's the same with potassium or lithium, that you're reading that floor, it had enough. It's just had enough. Knowing that put enough.
Lithium's the white product, isn't it? The lithium comes out white from your sprayer.
No. looks like water.
Okay, so how do I know that it's not water I'm putting down, Daniel?
Like Josh does always the fingertip in the bottle, and is it filled with slimy?
Yeah. All right, so how do we get consistent color throughout the floor with confidence, guys?
The way you'd get consistency throughout the floor is follow the process, not just with your floor machine, but also follow the exact same steps with your edging tools as well.
Yeah.
And get that floor to the point of rejection as well with densifier.
I just wanted to pull you up on that one, Milan.
Yes.
Following the process on the edge is the same as the floor. Now, when you say following the process, are we just talking about the grit numbers, or are we talking about the resin families? Now, by that I mean we've got a whole host of edging products, and we've got a host of walk-behind products. Now, how important is it that I'm using a similar type of resin on the edge? Say, for instance, I could use a honeycomb on the edge, and I could be using impact on the rest of the floor under the machine. What am I going to see difference there? I mean, I'm still using 100 for 100, right? 200 for 200, 400 for 400. Am I going to see the same result, or should I be using something in a similar family?
Definitely not. This is where consistency comes into play, and whatever you put underneath the machine, you have to match with edges. Obviously, honeycomb is a more aggressive tool and will strip the color, whereas the impact does the opposite. It brings color into the floor, or enhances the color that's already in the floor. So to answer your question, if I'm using impacts on the floor, I'd be using impacts on the edges as well to make sure that it's 100% matching. And not just that, if I'm spraying a mist in front of the grinder with a densifier, I'm doing the same thing on the edges as well. I'm applying a little bit of densifier and working with it. So everything that happens on the floor happens on the edges using the same type of materials.
No way.
Yes way.
I think you're fixing all of my color problems.
Good topic, guys. Very important. We get asked this. I get asked probably every day this question: how to get the consistent colors and how much densifier to apply. Remember, we're looking for consistency, so there's no magic answer. So you're going to have to, as always, read your floors. But if you get stuck, give us a call and we'll help you out. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy your weekends and happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday, guys. Have a fantastic weekend. Get some rest. We've seen what you're doing out there. You're all working pretty hard. So make sure you get that rest.
Yeah, pretty crazy at times at the moment. Everyone's busy.
Alrighty, Uluru.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.